Chapter 1233. She shook her head with an indifferent expression. Nope. Little Pig and Snowball in Luo Qingtong's body were contracted by her. The reason why she could help Suyu to form a contract was because of the effect of the Heaven and Earth contract. It had nothing to do with Luo Qingtong. However, in Luo Qingtong's previous life in the ancient martial ability world, she had met several ability users who could communicate with and control beasts. However, their ability was clearly different from those who could form a contract with Demon Beast. Not a beast tamer? Yusi Huang looked deeply at Luo Qingtong. Not a beast tamer, but she could help others form a contract with a demon beast. Moreover, it was such a powerful lightning beast. Not only that, this lightning beast was much stronger than Suyu. Yusi Huang looked at Luo Qingtong, his gaze swept through the surrounding people and suddenly raised his hand. Boom! An attack suddenly blasted towards those people who were rescued by Luo Qingtong from the underground secret room. Master! Seeing the sudden attack, the group of people's complexion turned pale. Suyu suddenly flashed and appeared beside Luo Qingtong. She shielded Luo Qingtong behind her and looked at Yusi Huang, who suddenly made a move with vigilance and alertness. The lightning beast in her hand instantly returned to its original size, and angrily roared at Yusi Huang. Form a human formation. Luo Qingtong said to the group of people. The latter quickly formed the human formation that they used to deal with by Jintang. In an instant, Yusi Huang's attack fell on the human formation that they had just formed. With a boom, more than half of the attack was penetrated, and the remaining attack fell on the human formation, instantly breaking the formation and sending them flying. The group of people vomited blood and fell to the ground, but at least they managed to keep their lives. What are you doing? Luo Qingtong stopped Suyu and Lightning Beast, who were about to make a move, and looked at Yusi Huang with knitted eyebrows. Why did this person make a move without saying anything? Did he take the wrong medicine? If it wasn't for the fact that she couldn't feel Yusi Huang's killing intent towards her, she would have thought that Yusi Huang's actions towards these people were directed towards her. They can't stay. Yusi Huang stared at Luo Qingtong and said word by word. Your ability cannot be revealed. Tong, you probably don't know, but in the entire True Spill continent, there is only one place in the hidden world that has the secret inheritance of beast taming techniques. That's the Beast Taming King Valley. The people there are called beast tamers. They can contract demonic beasts and tame them themselves, and they can also help others contract and tame demonic beasts. The people of the Beast Taming King's Valley are extremely domineering and unbridled in the hidden world. If they know that you're not a beast tamer, but you can help people contract and tame demonic beasts, they will definitely find trouble with you at all costs. To the people of Beast Taming King's Valley, beast taming was the most important method for them to stand at the top of the hidden world. Now Luo Qingtong was clearly not someone from their side, and yet she could help people contract and tame demonic beasts. This had clearly crossed their bottom line. Not to mention that Luo Qingtong could help others contract demonic beasts, and the strength of these demonic beasts was above the contractors. This was even more coveted. This was because in Beast Taming King's Valley, besides the Valley Master and several others, it was impossible for anyone else to accomplish this. Therefore, Luo Qingtong's ability could not be revealed. Otherwise, there would be no end of troubles. Chapter 1234. They were the only ones here who were most likely to leak the fact that Luo Qingtong could help others contract Demon Beast. Hearing his words, the group of people who vomited blood on the ground instantly turned pale. They couldn't refute Yusi Huang's words. Killing them was indeed the fastest and best way to keep the secret. Although they swore an oath to be loyal to Luo Qingtong, but this kind of thing who could say for sure? Without the test of time, no one knew if there would be someone among them who would reveal Luo Qingtong's secret even if they didn't want their lives. The group of people's faces were filled with despair, covering their wounds without uttering a word. Luo Qingtong looked at them indifferently, then said, "It's okay, they won't betray me." Luo Qingtong would never punish her people because of groundless accusations. What's more, how could it be easy to betray her after becoming her people? Luo Qingtong was hunted down many times in her previous life. She didn't know how many people wanted to betray her, but no one succeeded. Luo Qingtong naturally had a way to make them unable to reveal her secret. Before these people really betrayed her, Luo Qingtong would protect them. This was her promise to her people. Don't mention this matter again, they are my people, don't touch them. Luo Qingtong's words made those people who were lying on the ground cry tears of joy. Master, don't worry, even if we are cut into pieces, we will never reveal Master's secret. They swore to the heavens. Luo Qingtong softly said, get up. She casually threw a few bottles of healing liquid to them, then looked at Yu Huang who was next to her. The latter frowned. He didn't agree with Luo Qingtong's words. But since the other side said so, he could only give up. He looked at Luo Qingtong with resentment and said, AI, being your person is really fortunate. Do you want to take me in as well? Along with the imperial sect and the entire southern region's 3 islands and 7 lands, it's definitely a profitable deal. His eyes were full of resentment. This person was so good to his subordinates, give him some. He was very willing to be her person, especially his wife. Luo Qingtong looked at him, smiling evilly. You swear to the heavens and earth, swear allegiance to me, recognize me as your master. I promise to treat you better than them. As she spoke, she raised her hand and patted Yu Huang's handsome face that was completely covered by a thick layer of powder. Then she directly removed the powder from his body. After the powder was removed, Yu Huang revealed his devilishly handsome face. He looked at Luo Qingtong bitterly. You know, I'm not talking about that one. What he wanted was the kind of wife who would accept him. Then there's none, Luo Qingtong said slowly. I don't accept people other than servants. Hey, let's go. Luo Qingtong looked at the group of people she rescued from the underground secret room. They had finished adjusting their breathing, so she immediately turned around. Yes. Su Yu and the others replied in unison and immediately followed her. AI. Tong, wait for me. What about Yi Qianxian? Yu Huang caught up with Luo Qingtong and asked. If the other side wasn't Luo Qingtong's people, then didn't that mean he still had a chance? Yu Huang secretly calculated in his heart. Luo Qingtong looked at him and suddenly smiled. Chapter 1235. Of course it's an exception. The man she likes is naturally different from others. Yu Huang's face is gloomy. Why? I don't look worse than him. Yes, you don't look worse than him. Yu Huang is indeed the only person Luo Qingtong has seen who can compete with Yi Qianxian in terms of appearance. Yu Huang, why does it sound like a compliment, but why does he feel inexplicably stifled when he hears it? Is she saying that he can't compare to Yi Qianxian in other aspects? But Yu Huang has no way to refute it. Yi Qianxian is indeed stronger than him. But that's because his heart disease hasn't recovered, so his strength is affected. He will definitely surpass him in the future. Somewhere in the outer region, Yi Qianxian stands in the depths of the starry sky with his hands behind his back. He raises his hand and gently caresses the Shifeng dragon ring in his hand. I don't know what will happen to that woman. Did anyone bully her in the far west wilderness? Yi Qianxian inexplicably regrets that he was too lax in the past. In the far west wilderness he didn't build a Blackfield city. Otherwise, Luo Qingtong wouldn't be so helpless in the far west wilderness. But this time Luo Qingtong is going to the far west wilderness for the Sage King's tomb. It's an excellent experience for her. If he sends too many people around her, it will attract too much attention. It's not a good thing for her. The best way is to solve the matter here as soon as possible and then rush to her side. Thinking of this, Yi Qianxian suddenly slightly squints his eyes. At this moment, Bei Qing's voice comes from the front. Master. As this voice rang out, Yi Qianming suddenly pulled back his hands, flicked his sleeves and looked forward. Bei Qing and Feng Yu appear in front of him. The two kneel and report. Master, we found the heavenly demon fox's location. However, there are also people from the Star Alliance over there. They obviously have the same goal as us. Mistress. Feng Yu frowned. Should we send some men over from Tiandu? Or other realms? No need. Yi Qianxian's voice was cold. There's no need to complicate matters. He had just suppressed the voices of the people from Tiandu. If they knew that he wanted to prolong his life, he was afraid that they would not be able to suppress him. Yi Qianxian didn't care about their ruckus, but Luo Qingtong's blunder had happened before. If these people couldn't be suppressed, then when they went to the True Spill continent, they would inevitably attract trouble from Luo Qingtong. Yi Qianxian didn't want the girl to be threatened or wronged. Let's go, he said in a deep voice. His figure disappeared on the spot. Bei Qing and Feng Yu looked at each other worriedly before they hurriedly followed him. While Yi Qianxian was heading towards the location of the heavenly demon fox, Luo Qingtong and the others had also arrived at the #1 city of the Western Wilderness, Wild City. This is Wild City? Luo Qingtong looked at the huge city wall in front of her. The shape of the city wall was rough and full of power, which corresponded with the word wilderness. At the same time, standing in the endless wilderness of the far west wilderness, it was also incomparably shocking. This wild city looked like 4 or 5 times the size of the holy capital of the Empire of Qin. In 4 directions except for the gate near the eastern wilderness. The other 3 directions were the widest, richest and most dangerous areas of the far west wasteland. Because of this, Wild City was called the #1 city of the Western Wilderness. Chapter 1236. Rumble. When Luo Qingtong and the others got close to Savage City, suddenly a deafening sound came from behind them. Luo Qingtong and the others turned around and saw a group of people galloping towards them from not far behind them. Move aside. Move aside. Everyone move aside. That group of people were all riding iron-horned rhinoceroses. It was a kind of mount unique to the Western Wilderness. It had a gentle temperament and a ferocious appearance. It looked very ferocious and mighty. At the same time, its fur was as white as snow. It was very popular among the pioneers in the Western Wilderness. However, this kind of iron-horned rhinoceroses was very difficult to catch. The price to buy was also very expensive. Ordinary pioneers in the Western Wilderness would not be able to get such a mount. In fact, some of the smaller cities outside of Wildland City didn't even have such mounts. At this moment, Luo Qingtong and the others saw that the group of people were all riding iron-horned rhinoceroses. And these people were all young men and women who were not more than 15 or 16 years old. It was very obvious that these people were the children of big families in Savage City. Luo Qingtong looked at this group of people rushing towards them. Their actions were unruly and they were shouting loudly for people to move aside. She immediately twisted her eyebrows. However, she was too lazy to argue with such people. She pulled Su Yu and the others to the side. Yu Si Huang was wearing a veil hat on his head. When Luo Qingtong pulled his sleeve, his originally unhappy mood became happy. He was too lazy to pay attention to these children of influential families in Savage City who did not know the immensity of heaven and earth. A group of people stood outside the city gate, waiting for the group of people to pass by. At this moment, a voice floated over from the opposite side. "AI, these people have been coming here every day. They really don't care about people's lives." That's right. This family Hu boy also has a hard life. Although he is the product of family whose second miss who lost her virginity before marriage. But in any case he is still the blood of family Hu. And what happened that year? Everyone knows that it was not the second Miss's fault. These people from the Hu clan are really insulting the other party. That's right. No one knew how he managed to pass through the dangerous western wastelands to reach Savage City. Sigh. How pitiful. In the end, the family Hu people treated him like that. You're just bullying him because he's a fool. Yes. It's also because family whose head is seriously ill and doesn't care about anything. And family whose eldest young master has been paralyzed and unconscious in bed ever since that incident. Otherwise, how could family Hu be in this state? Yes. Sai, if the second elder of the side branch wants to seize power, how could he allow a male from the main branch to stand in front of him? Even if he was an idiot, it would not do. Isn't he trying to torment that kid from family Hu? He even pushed him out to be the object of amusement for the other aristocratic families. This brat is really lucky. I don't know if fortune favors fools, but I can't die no matter how hard I try. Shoo. Stop talking, those people are coming. Hearing the whispers from all around, Luo Qingtong's brows immediately furrowed. Was she imagining things? Why did she feel that the person these people were talking about was very familiar? Family Hu an idiot? Did they find him outside? Luo Qingtong's brows furrowed. At this moment, the group of people had already rushed to the city gate. Chapter 1237. Behind that group of people there was a person tied up and dragged along. That person's 4 limbs were bound by chains as thick as a child's arm. His entire body was tied up tightly, and he was dragged along by that group of people on their iron-horned rhinoceroses. Seeing this scene, many people in the surroundings cried out in alarm. With such strength and speed, this person's body was obviously not protected by any aura. This person would be dragged to death. Who would have thought that this group of people was running so wildly to make way for the person behind them? Many people who had just heard the whispers in the surroundings finally understood what they were talking about. These children of the aristocratic families in Wildland City really did not take human lives seriously. Moreover, listening to the words of the people nearby, the person being dragged could be considered a member of the family who, the other party was just going to let him be trampled on like this? While everyone was astonished and crying out in alarm, Luo Qingtong was furious in her heart. Not for anything else, but because the person being dragged by that group of people was none other than Chu Lingfeng. Why was this big blockhead here? And he was being dragged along like this? Luo Qingtong looked at the scene in front of her, and a burst of anger erupted in her heart. At this moment, a burst of laughter suddenly came from that group of people. Haha, Hu Yen or Hu Bang, you two siblings are really good. Bringing such a thick-skinned blockhead to play with us is really too enjoyable. Yes. Look at that blockhead, his life is really as cheap as a dog's. No matter how we play, he won't die. I think we should change the game tomorrow. We'll cover the ground with gravel, clamp a blade and play again. Those young men and women laughed wantonly, and the words in their words made people tremble from the bottom of their hearts. They were really too vicious and did not take human lives seriously at all. Everyone cast sympathetic glances at the person who was being dragged. Su Yu and the others also looked over. The people from the Luo family's Iron Army did not have much of a reaction. They had never seen Chu Lingfeng before and naturally did not know who he was. Seeing this scene, he only felt sympathy in his heart. Su Yu immediately recognized Chu Lingfeng. Master. She covered her mouth and exclaimed softly, looking at Luo Qingtong. The latter took a step forward with a cold expression and stood in front of the group of people. Chu Lingfeng. Luo Qingtong's cold voice pierced through the laughter of those people and resounded in Chu Lingfeng's ears. Get over here. With Luo Qingtong's eye technique, she could naturally see that Chu Lingfeng didn't have any internal injuries. This drag was enough to kill someone, but to him, it was probably not as serious as the injuries he had suffered in the bloody arena in the past. However, Luo Qingtong was not angry that he had been injured. Instead, it was because he was being humiliated and tortured like this, yet he didn't even fight back. That blockhead. Luo Qingtong's voice resounded in Chu Lingfeng's ears. The latter abruptly opened his eyes. Master. His heart was filled with ecstasy as he abruptly pulled on the iron chains that bound his body. Suddenly, he stood up amidst the neighing of the horses. He looked around, searching for Luo Qingtong's whereabouts. Ah. Chapter 1238. However, Chu Lingfeng suddenly stood up. In an instant, the horses under them were pulled taut by the iron chains. One by one, they were all stopped in their high-speed gallop. Amidst the neighing and whining of the frightened horses, all of them suddenly screamed and flew forward. Plop plop. Their bodies fiercely hit the ground, instantly rubbing against the ground as they flew forward. Some of them were luckier and directly flew over the city gate. As for those who were not so lucky, they directly crashed into the majestic and tall city walls, instantly breaking their heads and bleeding. A few powerful aristocratic family descendants flew up fiercely. After a few leaps in the air, they landed on the ground. Bastard! What the hell are you doing, you fool? And you brat, why are you blocking in front of us? Are you looking for death? The aristocratic family descendants were thrown off their horses. Immediately, a wave of anger rushed towards Chu Lingfeng. There was also a group of people who rushed towards Luo Qingtong. At this time, Chu Lingfeng also saw Luo Qingtong. He suddenly exerted his strength. In an instant, with a bang, the iron chains around him were all easily pulled apart by him as if they were made of plastic. The angry people who wanted to cause trouble for him were knocked to the ground by the broken shards of the iron chains before they could even get close. Ouch! Amidst the screams of the crowd, Chu Lingfeng flew to Luo Qingtong's side with a face full of joy. He also sent the aristocratic family descendants who rushed over to her flying. Then with a face full of joy, he circled around Luo Qingtong. Moss, he was just about to call Luo Qingtong, but then he remembered the words that Luo Qingtong had instructed him in the past, When outside without her permission or seeing her in another disguise, he was not to call her master directly. Chu Lingfeng sized up Luo Qingtong. Seeing that she wasn't wearing the evil Dr. Ghost Eye's disguise, he immediately swallowed the word, master, that was about to come out of his mouth. He just looked at Luo Qingtong with a silly smile and kept scratching his head. His appearance, coupled with his honest and foolish appearance, made it hard for people to associate him with the violent and ferocious appearance from before. This was the feeling of a man-eating beast turning into a house pet. Everyone was dumbfounded when they saw this. That unforeseen event had happened too quickly. Everyone was still in a daze. Especially those who had previously thought that Chu Lingfeng was extremely pitiful and was afraid that he would be toyed to death by these young masters. Now that they saw him brimming with energy, they were instantly speechless. Who said that Chu Lingfeng was going to be played to death? Looking at his appearance, there wasn't the slightest bit of injury. These young masters had been dragging him everywhere these past few days. They didn't know who was toying with who. Just as everyone was looking at Chu Lingfeng in a daze, Luo Qingtong looked at Chu Lingfeng and sneered. She was just about to pinch his ear and teach this blockhead a lesson when she heard a flustered and exasperated voice suddenly ring out from not far away. Bastard! Chu Lingfeng! You lowly son of a bitch! Trash, like you actually dared to injure so many of us. Get over here and kneel down to apologize. If you don't let everyone forgive you, don't even think about letting that bitch mother of yours return to the family who. Chapter 1239. That finger almost poked Chu Lingfeng's nose. Kneel down. Kowtow like a dog and apologize. When they forgive you, then you'd better get up, do you hear me? The figure that was pointing at Chu Lingfeng and scolding him was actually a young girl dressed in a light pink robe. The pink robe accentuated the young girl's age and delicateness, but it couldn't conceal the overbearing attitude on her face and the malice and disdain she had for Chu Lingfeng. Seeing the other party's expression and hearing her words, Luo Qingtong's original intention of teaching Chu Lingfeng a lesson was immediately put aside. Aside from her, no one else was allowed to touch her men. Big brother. Luo Qingtong looked at Chu Lingfeng, and before he could open his mouth, she had already taken the initiative to shout. She looked at the overbearing young girl in pink and said with a fake smile, "Who is this woman with no manners at all?" She covered her nose, her face full of disgust and disgust. Why does she have a stench on her body? Not only does her mouth stink, he stinks too. Before Luo Qingtong could finish her words, the young girl in pink had already shrieked. What nonsense are you talking about? Who are you calling stinky? Do you know who I am? I'm Hu Yenner from family Hu. Before she could finish her vicious words, a stench had already drifted out from her body. In an instant, everyone could smell the strong stench she was emitting. Once this stench was emitted, the surrounding people's gazes towards her immediately changed. This stench was extremely unpleasant, as if it was the smell of dead fish mixed with the smell of the latrine. Everyone looked at Hu Yenner's face that had suddenly turned pale, and thought to themselves, could it be that she had a strong body odor? It was only because there was something special that had previously concealed it. But now it had been accidentally exposed? If that was the case, it would really be big news in Wilderness City. Family whose power was considered to be above average among the families in Wilderness City. If not for Hu Zhongtian and his eldest son Hu Fei, family whose power would have been even higher. Who would have thought that Hu Yenner, who was usually so overbearing and arrogant, would secretly have such a strong body odor? Who knew where she got the face to look down on others? Once this matter was out, Hu Yenner's life in Wilderness City would be difficult in the future. Not only would no one in the aristocratic families look at her in the future. Even those young ladies who had been bullied and despised by her in the past would secretly despise her and mock her. They would no longer be with her lest they lower their standards. Because of this incident, Hu Yenner was destined to be abandoned by the aristocratic families in Wildland City. While everyone's expression was strange, Hu Yenner also smelled the strong odor coming from her body. She also didn't know what was wrong with her. Looking at the surrounding people's indescribable gazes, she immediately screamed and ran away. Wherever she went, it was as if the plague had arrived and the stench filled the air. Everyone immediately moved away, increasingly convinced that Hu Yenner's body odor was strong and unpleasant. Everyone who smelled it wanted to vomit. Chapter 1240. A few of the young boys and girls who were close to Hu Yener and Hu Bang quickly sniffed their bodies to make sure that they had not been tainted by the disgusting smell. Immediately they distanced themselves from Hu Bang, who was standing on the spot. The latter's expression was extremely ugly. He had never thought that Hu Yener's body would emit such a disgusting smell. What was going on? Could it be that for some reason his sister had been tainted by this disgusting smell and was unable to get rid of it, so she had been hiding it? And now it suddenly exploded in front of so many people? It was not that Hu Bang did not suspect that someone was secretly trying to harm Hu Yener. But when Hu Yener was by his side, she had been acting normal. Then when she rushed in front of that fool Chu Lingfeng, she suddenly exploded with a disgusting smell. Just now when Hu Yener was scolding Chu Lingfeng, it was obviously in front of everyone's eyes and almost everyone's attention was on her. Even he himself was the same. If someone wanted to harm Hu Yener, it was impossible for them not to feel anything. Thinking of this, he immediately dispelled this thought in his heart. Then he took out his anger on Chu Lingfeng. If not for this fool suddenly acting up and throwing them all out, how would the disgusting smell on Hu Yener's body be discovered? If this was at the entrance of family Hu, it would still be fine and Hu Yener's matter could still be covered up. But now she had embarrassed herself at the entrance of Wilderness City. Hu Yener would probably never be able to turn over a new leaf. Even if the disgusting smell on Hu Yener's body disappeared, everyone would probably think that she had used some method to cover it up. Hu Bang was enraged as he thought of this. He could not hide the coldness in his eyes as he looked at Chu Lingfeng. It was all this fool's fault. Once this bastard came, nothing good would come out of their bloodline. The family Hu that was just about to be in their hands because of him, new problems cropped up. This time he had offended so many aristocratic disciples, and not only that, he had also caused Hu Yener's secret to be exposed. He was really hateful. Hu Bang was about to open his mouth and scold Chu Lingfeng. At this moment Luo Qingtong's voice suddenly rang out. "Big brother, why did they drag you on the ground just now? Don't they know your identity?" Luo Qingtong said as she leisurely looked at the expressions of the people around her. The most important thing was the expressions of Hu Bang and the other noblemen. After the latter and the others distanced themselves from Hu Bang, they were not going to let Luo Qingtong and Chu Lingfeng off. They were about to rush over to settle accounts with the two of them. When he heard Luo Qingtong's words, he suddenly stopped in his tracks. As a descendant of an aristocratic family, the most important creed was that they could be arrogant and foppish, but they absolutely could not bring trouble to the family. Hearing that Chu Lingfeng's identity might not be ordinary, everyone's expression changed slightly. Luo Qingtong didn't give them too much time to think. She directly spoke. "My big brother is from the southern region's imperial sect. How dare you treat him like this? He must be tired of living. You better pray that there is a legitimate reason for this. Otherwise, the southern region's imperial sect will not let this matter rest." Pooh! When Luo Qingtong's words came out, Yu Si Huang, who was beside her, suddenly staggered. Then he whispered in her ear, "Hey, when did he become a member of our imperial sect? How come he didn't know?" Chapter 1241. Your identities are easier to use. If she brought up the black field in her name, it would attract too much attention. If someone paid attention, it would be easy to suspect her identity. Moreover, it would not be beneficial for her to secretly investigate the Saint King's tomb. On the contrary, it would be more convenient to use the identity of the imperial sect. Probably no one would think that she would be together with Yu Si Huang. Yu Si Huang was banned by Yi Qianxian from appearing in the black field. Yu Si Huang's mouth twitched. Soon he seemed to have thought of something and smiled happily. "Then is there any benefit in using my identity?" he asked with a smile on his face. "For example, kissing, hugging, and so on." Luo Qingtong looked at him with a smile that was not a smile. Before she could speak, Hu Bang on the other side had already shouted with a changing expression. "Impossible! How could this fool be from the imperial sect?" He sneered at Luo Qingtong and the others and said, "Don't think that you can absolve him of his crimes just because you said that. He hurt so many aristocratic children here, and you want to absolve this matter with just a few words? Dream on." How could Hu Bang let Luo Qingtong and the others absolve themselves of this matter? They pushed Chu Lingfeng out for these aristocratic children to play with. They used his mother as a hostage. If he did not listen, his mother would never be recognized by the family who and return to the family who. This idiot has no brain at all. He actually believed their words after hearing them. Actually, everyone in Wild City knew that Hu Zhongtian had never blamed Hu Yenyang. After she disappeared, he blamed himself deeply for not doing his duty as a father. Due to the pressure from the clan and the outside world, he let his daughter live alone outside and suffered all kinds of rumors and slanders. In the end, she left without saying goodbye. If Hu Zhongtian was not seriously ill and could not get up, and did not know about Chu Lingfeng's arrival, they would not have done anything to Chu Lingfeng. Even so, they did not dare to deal with Chu Lingfeng on their own accord. After all, Hu Zhongtian still had a group of powerful secret guards that belonged solely to the patriarch. Although these people were only loyal to the patriarch and did not care about anything in the family, this did not mean that they would watch as they killed Chu Lingfeng. That was why Hu Bang and Hu Yener were able to use Chu Lingfeng for fun. Anyway, it was fine as long as he didn't kill the other party. Hu Zhongtian didn't have many days left to live. By the time they had complete control over the family they would be able to kill Chu Lingfeng, that bastard. But now, Chu Lingfeng had offended more than half of the aristocratic families in Wildland City. If the other party didn't take the blame, he would have to take it himself. It was precisely because Hu Bang saw through this that he tried his best to deny Chu Lingfeng's identity. He couldn't let Chu Lingfeng get away with this. He had to let these aristocratic families point their spears at him. Furthermore, with this idiot's foolish appearance, how could he possibly be someone from the imperial sect? Hu Bang didn't believe it at all. In his heart, he was certain that Luo Qingtong had purposely said it to absolve Chu Lingfeng and herself. Luo Qingtong raised her eyebrows, then transmitted her voice to Yu Sihuang. Do you have a token on you that can prove your identity as someone from the imperial sect? Yes. Yu Sihuang answered without hesitation. But soon his wolfish nature was revealed. Chapter 1242. Under the veil hat, that pair of enchanting peach blossom eyes, indescribably charming. The veil hat seemed to penetrate the veil, staring at Luo Qingtong's body. Good. Luo Qingtong looked at him, suddenly smiling wickedly. Taking the opportunity to blackmail her for benefits? Perhaps Yu Sihuang didn't know her temper. What kind of benefits do you want? How about a kiss? Luo Qingtong looked at him with a chuckle. Good, good. Yu Sihuang's face was full of joy. She did not expect Luo Qingtong to bring it up herself when she was thinking about it previously. The world is simply too beautiful. But very quickly he thought of Luo Qingtong's temperament. Suddenly looking at her with vigilance, he said, "Let's agree it's a kiss." He deliberately emphasized the word, kiss. It must be your kiss. Kiss the lips. He thought and added another sentence, so as to avoid Luo Qingtong taking advantage of the loophole. Hehe. Luo Qingtong looked at him with a fake smile on her face. She would properly fulfill his wish. Good. She nodded. Give me the token. Luo Qingtong's answer was very straightforward, although Yu Sihuang's heart still felt something was wrong. But he thought about it, he couldn't think of anything else that Luo Qingtong could do. He had blocked all the loopholes, this time there was absolutely no problem. Thinking like this, he suddenly didn't think so much, directly passing the token representing the identity of the imperial sect to Luo Qingtong's hand. With his strength, it was naturally easy for him to not be discovered by anyone. Luo Qingtong played with that token, then under the cover of her sleeve she directly stuffed that token into Chu Lingfeng's sleeve pocket. Big brother, let them see the token on your body, Luo Qingtong said in a deep voice. Chu Lingfeng was stunned. He didn't have the imperial sect's token on him at all. He was master's man. Looking at his stunned expression, Hu Bang suddenly sneered. I knew it, he couldn't be someone from the imperial sect. How could the imperial school recruit a fool? Who didn't know that the imperial sect had already unified the 3 islands and 7 lands after the imperial sect master, Yu Sihuang, was cured of his heart disease. The current imperial sect was already the true overlord of the southern region. How could a fool like Chu Lingfeng join the imperial sect? He was afraid that he would only be a handyman. No one else would want him. Hu Bang thought, feeling both proud and disdainful. As for the other aristocratic families, after hearing his words, the way they looked at Luo Qingtong and the others changed again. Bastard. How dare you lie to us? They looked at Luo Qingtong with faces full of anger and humiliation. Raising their hands, they were about to gather the people from their respective families to help them clean up the mess just now and get back some face. However, before they could make a move, Luo Qingtong had already patted Chu Lingfeng's sleeve. Big brother, it's in your sleeve pocket. This big blockhead. Luo Qingtong also couldn't do anything to him. However, this character of Chu Lingfeng's was what she liked the most and was most at ease with. It was pure and wholeheartedly for her. So if he was a little foolish, then so be it. Oh. After being patted by her, Chu Lingfeng immediately obediently followed her instructions and took out the token from his sleeve pocket. This. Chapter 1243. Protector. It was actually the protector of the imperial sect. One had to know that under the sect leader and elders were the protectors of the main altar. Compared to those elders who only existed as a deterrent force, the protectors of the main altar were the ones who held the real power in the imperial sect. Those who were not close to Yu Huang could not hold the position. More importantly, this protector of the main altar had to be personally issued by Yu Huang. In other words, with this token, even if Chu Lingfeng was not the protector of the imperial sect, he would still be someone who was highly valued by Yu Huang. Thinking of this, how could the faces of these aristocratic children not change? One had to know that although the imperial sect did not have any forces in the far west wilderness, the other sects in the southern region had many forces in the far west wilderness. Under such circumstances, if the imperial sect wanted to make things difficult for them, how could the family clan offend the imperial sect with just the few of them? They would have to hand them over. Thinking of this, they suddenly felt a wave of regret and annoyance. If they had known that family this fool who suddenly appeared had such a background, they definitely would not have treated him like this. This time they were really unlucky. Just as everyone was feeling annoyed, Hu Bang's face was indescribably flustered and exasperated. This is impossible. How could this lowly bastard have such an identity? Hu Bang looked at the token in Chu Lingfeng's hand in disbelief. His heart was filled with anger and depression. This lowly bastard actually had such a good life. He was actually able to obtain the appreciation of the imperial sect leader. The imperial sect did not have any forces in the far west wilderness, but in the southern region they were a proper overlord. Originally, he thought that this lowly bastard and his mother must be in poverty outside, unable to continue, so he wanted to find them at this time by any means possible. He did not expect that the other party's identity outside was so prominent, and that they were living a good life. Hu Bang's face was so ugly that it was as if he had been ruthlessly slapped dozens of times in the face. At this moment, Luo Qingtong glanced at him and suddenly laughed. That's impossible. How could your family who not know? As Luo Qingtong spoke, she gently opened the folding fan in her hand and gently fanned herself. She leisurely said, "My eldest brother's personality, he always carries this token with him. Did the people of family who really not see it at all?" As she spoke, her gaze swept from Hu Bang's face to the faces of the nobles. Suddenly she smiled meaningfully. This plan of using someone else to do your dirty work is pretty good. As Luo Qingtong's voice rang out, the faces of Hu Bang and the other aristocratic family members changed. However, the former changed because of panic while the latter changed because of anger. Hu Bang! How dare you, family who set us up? When Luo Qingtong's words came out, those aristocratic families' younger generation immediately started thinking about many things. They were originally on tenterhooks because they had just dealt with Chu Lingfeng. When Luo Qingtong's words came out, they immediately thought, the reason why they had dealt with Chu Lingfeng earlier and used him for their amusement, it was completely because Hu Bang and his sister had led the other party to them, allowing them to amuse themselves as they pleased. They had previously thought that the family whose siblings were very nice. Now it seemed that they were not nice at all. Chapter 1244. At that time, even if they killed the other party, they would take the blame for them. These family who people really had a good plan. In an instant, those aristocratic family disciples looked at Hu Bang with ferocious gazes. No. Wait. It's not like that. Hu Bang did not expect that Luo Qingtong would turn the hatred of the aristocratic family disciples to him with just a few words. Looking at these people's ferocious gazes, his heart trembled. These aristocratic family disciples here were not the top existences in their respective families, but they were not that bad either. Otherwise, the siblings Hu Bang and Hu Yener would not have mingled with them, and even dragged Chu Lingfeng out to curry favor with them. If these people attacked him together, he really would not be able to resist. Even if his family was outside, they would be implicated. After all, these people all thought that his family had plotted against them. We didn't. He tried his best to explain. However, these aristocratic family disciples had already confirmed their thoughts, so why would they listen to his explanation? The token in Chu Lingfeng's hand was real, and his identity was also real. Then the siblings Hu Yener and Hu Bang dragged the other party here to amuse them. If not for their evil intentions, what else could it be? When they thought about how they had almost become tools for the other party to kill someone with a borrowed knife, and how they had almost gotten into trouble with the imperial family, these aristocratic family disciples were instantly furious. Hu Bang, weren't you and Hu Yener having a good time just now? Come, let's continue. A group of people sneered as they surrounded Hu Bang. Then they tied him up like a dumpling in a few moves. Just like how they had treated Chu Lingfeng, they tied the chains behind their horses. This time we were misled. We will apologize to the imperial family right now. These aristocratic family disciples were very obedient. They clearly wanted to vent their anger, but they did not forget to curry favor with Luo Qingtong and the others. As soon as they finished speaking, they immediately patted the horses they were riding on. In an instant, those iron-horned rhinoceroses turned around and rumbled away with Hu Bang, who was constantly screaming and struggling. But the latter's screams faded away along with the deafening noises, and his figure soon disappeared before everyone's eyes. At the city gate, everyone could only see a cloud of smoke and dust. Many people were secretly cheering in their hearts. What was this called? A wicked person would be dealt with by another wicked person. With Hu Bang's strength and without the protection of his aura, he would still be able to survive if he was dragged along like this. If not, he would just hang up. However, family whose people had plotted against those aristocratic families. Even if Hu Bang was dead, they probably wouldn't dare to cause trouble for those aristocratic families. After all, it was already good enough that the latter didn't cause trouble for them. Hu Bang deserved it. Everyone thought so, but Luo Qingtong had watched enough and acted enough. She directly brought Chu Lingfeng, Su Yu and the others into Wildland City. Tong Tong, you promised me before. Once the matter was over, Yu Si Huang went in front of Luo Qingtong and whispered to ask for credit. His words were full of eagerness. That pair of charming peach blossom eyes, even the veil of the veil couldn't hide the burning light in them. Luo Qingtong tilted her head and looked at him. Suddenly she smiled wickedly, extremely charming. Kiss, right? Chapter 1245. Come over here and close your eyes. Yu Si Huang's heart burst with joy. In a flash, he appeared beside Luo Qingtong and kissed her with his eyes closed. Luo Qingtong looked at his action. Her eyes flashed with a trace of craftiness. Then she raised her hand. Thus he summoned Little Pig. The little pig was squatting in her sleeve with nothing to do. It was using its little hoof to play with the little golden mouse beside it. The little guy was teasing it until it squeaked. While it was messing around, Little Pig's body suddenly soared into the air and came face to face with Yu Si Huang. Little Pig's eyes widened in shock as his little nose was kissed right on the spot. At this time, Yu Si Huang also felt that something was wrong and immediately opened his eyes. In an instant, one person and one pig stared at each other. Then Yu Si Huang jumped up and instantly retreated 3 feet away. Pei. He looked at Luo Qingtong with a black and green face. Tong Tong, what happened to the promised kiss? Isn't this it? Luo Qingtong said and flicked Little Pig's little nose. Little Pig didn't react at all. Yu Si Huang's head was full of black lines. Tong Tong, you can't do this. I clearly said before that it's yours. His face was full of resentment. That's right. Luo Qingtong raised her eyebrows and looked at him. Little Pig is also mine. Is there a problem? Yu Si Huang, who was deeply tricked, was depressed. When the two returned to the group, Su Yu and the others had been waiting for them for a while. Master, where are we going now? Su Yu looked at Luo Qingtong and asked. Take the heavenly diabolism people and find a place to stay. Familiarize yourself with the fake soul seal I gave you before. When I need it I will call you. Alright. Su Yu and the others responded and immediately left. Chu Lingfeng watched and was about to leave with Su Yu when he was stopped by Luo Qingtong. What's wrong with you? Why are you in Wild City? Luo Qingtong looked at him and asked, didn't the Grand Principal send you to do something? Could it be that his place of business was in this wildland city? But when she was about to leave, the Grand Principal didn't tell her about this matter. This meant that things weren't like that. Master. Chu Lingfeng looked like he had done something wrong. He bent his waist and lowered his head, not daring to look at her. After I came back from handling some matters for the Grand Principal, I knew that you weren't around. So I chased after you. Only heaven knew that when Chu Lingfeng returned to the Holy Academy of the Empire of Qin, he heard that Luo Qingtong had left and that he had missed the chance to meet his master. His heart was like a bolt from the blue. He directly told the Grand Principal that he was on leave and ran to find Luo Qingtong. But because Luo Qingtong had turned around and went to Fenghua City, Chu Lingfeng didn't encounter them. That was why Chu Lingfeng hadn't bumped into them. Instead he had arrived at Wild City ahead of time. Luo Qingtong nodded. At this moment Chu Lingfeng raised his head. He was a big and burly man, even bigger than when he first met Luo Qingtong. At this moment he was looking at her with red eyes. Master, don't give me to that door. I won't go. Give this lousy token back to them. Master. Don't be angry with me, okay? Don't abandon me. I want to stay by your side. Chu Lingfeng's heart was filled with panic. He didn't know that Luo Qingtong said that he was a member of the imperial sect, but it was only a temporary measure. Chapter 1246. Chu Lingfeng's heart was at a loss. His second life was given by Luo Qingtong. Without Luo Qingtong he wouldn't be who he is now. He only knows to listen to his master's words, follow his master and do things for his master. If his master doesn't want him, he really doesn't know what to do. He doesn't want to follow anyone other than his master. He doesn't want to listen to anyone other than his master. Master, you said you won't abandon me. Luo Qingtong looked at this big fool who was like an abandoned dog. Her heart was suddenly filled with helplessness. I said I won't abandon you, so it must be true. That identity is just another amulet I found for you. With it, when you walk outside it will be a lot easier. Luo Qingtong said, glancing at Yu Huang who was listening to Chu Lingfeng's words. His face almost turned green and the corner of her lips slightly lifted. Since the other side gave the token to her, then it's hers. Of course she wants to make the best use of it. Yu Huang looked at this master and servant pair and his lips twitched for a while. These two master and servant are exactly the same. One is tricking him, the other is unconsciously dissing him. Can you be a bit more sincere? Yu Huang's face was gloomy. But when he saw Luo Qingtong's glance he nodded. I know from now on, Imperial Sect will have a headquarter protector called Chu Lingfeng who doesn't care about anything. I will pass on this matter as soon as possible. Luo Qingtong saved his life. Even if he didn't like Luo Qingtong, Yu Huang wouldn't not help with this small matter. Before he took the opportunity to ask for benefits from Luo Qingtong, but it was just a joke. Even if Luo Qingtong didn't agree he would still give her the token. But he didn't expect that he still couldn't play with the other side. Thinking of the big hole he fell into, Yu Huang suddenly looked at Luo Qingtong with hidden bitterness. Luo Qingtong didn't pay attention to him. After receiving his answer she immediately nodded at him. Then he looked at Chu Lingfeng and asked, what's the deal with family who? How did you end up being tied up and dragged behind the horses by those nobles? Luo Qingtong frowned. When she said this her expression suddenly turned solemn. Because of Chu Lingfeng's simple and honest personality, Luo Qingtong's personality was slightly restrained and soft in front of him. But when it came to the bottom line Luo Qingtong had no face to speak of. She had told Chu Lingfeng before that other than her, no one else had the right to make them lower their heads. Chu Lingfeng was obviously not at the mercy of those people, but he was tied behind the horse and dragged along. If he didn't explain this clearly, or if his explanation was not satisfactory to her, then all the words she had said before about not wanting him would not count. She could not tolerate people who would bend their eyebrows and bend their knees to others. She couldn't tolerate people who would lose her face and break her proud bones. Master, Chu Lingfeng looked at her uneasily, not daring to hide anything. It's them. They told me that only if I listened to them they would let my mother come back. Master, don't be angry. Chu Lingfeng stuttered for a while. The more anxious he was, the more he couldn't speak clearly. Luo Qingtong had already heard some of the ins and outs from his words. She remembered that Yen Yang had told her before that when she came to Wild City in the far west wilderness, she should take care of family Hu. But she didn't want to mention her name. Combined with the whispers she had heard at the city gate before. Chapter 1247. Yen Yang is the second daughter of family who lost her virginity before marriage? Did she give birth to Chu Lingfeng at that time? Luo Qingtong pondered in her heart. If that was the case, then it could explain why Yen Yang didn't want her to mention her name. Perhaps she felt that she was a disgrace to family Hu? But if it was really family Hu chased Yen Yang and her son away, and now ignored family Hu and his sister to bully Chu Lingfeng. Even if it was Yen Yang's request, Luo Qingtong wouldn't care about family Hu's life or death. She didn't want to disgust herself. Does the head of family Hu know that you were bullied by family Hu and his sister? Luo Qingtong could vaguely tell from the words of those people at the city gate that these things were done by the branch of the concubine. If the head of family Hu didn't know, she could consider his attitude and then reconsider. If the other party knew, then they would go their separate ways. Family Hu's life or death had nothing to do with her. I don't know. Chu Lingfeng shook his head. I haven't seen him yet. He said honestly, they didn't let me see him. They said that my mother wasn't qualified to see him and that I wasn't qualified to see him. I have to make them happy so that they will intercede for me. I heard my mother talk about family Hu before, but she didn't tell me where family Hu was. Master, I can feel that my mother really wants to come back. But she's afraid that it will make things difficult for grandfather and the others. I want to help my mother. Chu Lingfeng said with some hesitation. He glanced at Luo Qingtong, then quickly lowered his head and said, Master, I didn't let them bully me for nothing. Hu Bang and his sister have diarrhea every day when they go back home. Also, they dragged me around like this, which is good for my body refining. They helped me, but I didn't even know. You're still snickering over there. What a fool. When Luo Qingtong heard him say that the Hu siblings were silly in such a serious manner, she could not keep her expression straight. She laughed. You're a fool yourself and you still have the nerve to talk about others. Luo Qingtong glanced at him snappily. If it weren't for the fact that this blockhead was gifted and that his injuries were equivalent to an increase in strength, family Hu and his sister's tricks would have been enough to slowly grind him to death. One had to know that the hidden injuries left behind by such dragging could not be seen. If he accumulated too much, it would be easy for him to die suddenly for no reason. At that time, the people from family Hu would be able to shirk all responsibility. Killing without spilling blood, so vicious and vicious. Interesting. Since the head of family Hu did not know about this, then she would go and meet those people from the second elders branch of family Hu. No matter what, Yen Yang had helped her so much and Chu Lingfeng was loyal and devoted to her. She had no reason to ignore their matters. Luo Qingtong thought so and immediately said to Chu Lingfeng, Let's go. I'll take you to see your grandfather. While she was at it, she also wanted to see what the head of family Hu's attitude was towards Chu Lingfeng and Yen Yang. If he still disdained them for being a disgrace, then she would leave without another word. If there was a little bit of affection between them, then he might be able to help them. Moreover, the thing that Bai Jintang mentioned before about family Hu, she also wanted to investigate and see if it was related to the Saint King's tomb. Chapter 1248. At the same time, in the sky above the black field, an extremely magnificent and powerful spirit ship cut through the sky in an instant and appeared above the main city of the Dark Domain, landing directly in front of Yi Qianming's palace. Quick. Elder Yu. Come quickly, go and see Master. Bastards, those people from the Star Alliance are too shameless. They can't win against Master, so they use tricks to make the Sky Demon Fox go berserk. Master couldn't dodge it completely. Bei Qing rushed into the medicine hall in a hurry. He pulled Elder Yu and ran, not caring whether he was refining medicine or not. Elder Yu directly wasted a pot of rare medicinal liquid. He didn't have time to deal with Bei Qing. Hearing his words, his face suddenly froze and he hurriedly ran to Yi Qianming's palace. When the two arrived at the entrance of the palace, they saw Feng Yu standing there with a dumbfounded expression. He was staring blankly at the inside of the room. "Hey, why are you just standing there? Go in and guard master," Bei Qing said as he hurriedly walked in with Elder Yu. However, just as he took 2 steps in, he caught a glimpse of the scene on the big bed in front of him. He was stunned for a moment. Master, master, master. At the entrance of family Hu, Luo Qingtong brought Chu Lingfeng, Yu Xingqi and Yu Sihuang here. Looking at the closed red door and the faint stench coming from inside, Luo Qingtong's lips curled up. She didn't know how long the people of family Hu's second elder could last. This 10 miles of fragrance was deliberately created by Luo Qingtong in her previous life to deal with the organizations that wanted to kill her. It was very powerful and had a strong smell. The longer Luo Qingtong stayed in family Hu, the more it would ferment. At that time, the entire family Hu would be submerged in this miasma-like stench. Luo Qingtong brought Chu Lingfeng and the others to family Hu. At this moment, the guards outside also saw them. To be precise, he saw the blockhead Chu Lingfeng following behind Luo Qingtong. "Yo, the big idiot is back? Did you have fun today?" They fought to mock Chu Lingfeng. These people were all children raised by family Hu. To put it bluntly, they were family Hu's slaves. Now that he saw Chu Lingfeng, a descendant of the direct line of descent, in such a pathetic state, he naturally wanted to tease him even more to regain his sense of superiority. The main family's direct bloodline is suppressed by us, and we can humiliate them however we want. How great was this feeling? Moreover, these people had just seen Hu Yen'er come back crying with a foul stench all over her body, while Chu Lingfeng came back unscathed. No matter how they looked at it, it seemed like he was the one who did it. The group of people gloated in their hearts. Making Miss Yen'er like this idiot should just wait for his death. Who didn't know that Miss Yen'er was the treasure of the second elder's line of descent? They were still counting on her to wait for the right price to climb up the ranks of the top families in Wilderness City. Chu Lingfeng had caused her to become like this. Wouldn't second elder and the others find out and skin him alive? Chu Lingfeng didn't pay attention to them at all, and only stared at Luo Qingtong. Ninth brother? Thinking of Luo Qingtong's previous instructions, Chu Lingfeng forcibly changed the words he wanted to say. This word didn't sound as smooth as master at all. He muttered in his heart. "And go knock on the door," Luo Qingtong said to him. "Yes." Chu Lingfeng agreed readily. He rushed to the entrance of family Hu in a few steps and prepared to knock on the door. Chapter 1249. Creak. The door opened from the inside out. A person who looked like the leader of the guards walked out. When he saw Chu Lingfeng, who was about to knock on the door, he was stunned for a moment, then he sneered. "Good. You idiot, how dare you come back? Do you know what you've done to Miss Yen'er?" As he spoke, he raised his head and said to the surrounding family Hu guards, "Receive second master's orders, capture this idiot and make him kowtow here. Kowtow until the smell on Miss Yen'er's body disappears." Hu Yen'er ran back, crying bitterly. She was the apple of the second elder's eye. Now that they saw her being wronged, regardless of whether Chu Lingfeng was the culprit or not, he would definitely become the target of the second elder's eye. What's more, from Hu Yen'er's sobbing, the second elder's people could tell that Chu Lingfeng was the one who had caused trouble first, and then this scene had happened. No matter what the reason for the smell on Hu Yen'er's body was, the culprit must be Chu Lingfeng. If he didn't resist, perhaps nothing would have happened. Thinking of this, Hu Yen'er's father Hu Yaoguo was furious. He wanted to capture Chu Lingfeng and punish him, so that Hu Yen'er could vent her anger. The group of people still didn't know what happened next at the city gate, so naturally, they didn't know that Chu Lingfeng had a new identity, which was that he was now the protector of the imperial sect. The leader of the guards had received Hu Yaoguo's order to go to the city gate and bring Chu Lingfeng back for punishment. Now that he was standing outside family Hu's gate, how could he be courteous to him? The guards who were guarding the gate were originally mocking Chu Lingfeng, but when they heard the leader's order, they immediately pounced on Chu Lingfeng with joy. Being able to make a move on a member of the direct bloodline was something worth bragging about. A group of people rushed towards Chu Lingfeng. Luo Qingtong watched from the side with a sneer. "Break their legs," she said coldly to Chu Lingfeng. This big blockhead was really stupid to the extreme. The second elder's people were clearly using Yen Yang's matter to restrain him, to deal with him, to make him obediently listen to their words and be tortured by them. If Luo Qingtong's guess was correct, that bloodline had no intention of letting Chu Lingfeng meet the head of family Hu Zhongtian. Only Chu Lingfeng, who had a simple and honest personality, didn't know what was going on. He thought that as long as he listened to them he would be able to see Hu Zhongtian and ask him about Yen Yang. Luo Qingtong never liked to talk nonsense with others. Since the second elder's people did not want Chu Lingfeng to see Hu Zhongtian, then she would bring him along and fight her way there. He wanted to see what kind of attitude that Hu Zhongtian had towards Yen Yang and her son. Yes. Hearing Luo Qingtong's words, Chu Lingfeng subconsciously released the energy around him and sent the guards who were pouncing on him flying. His strength was at the lower level of the martial grandmaster realm. Coupled with his special body constitution, Chu Lingfeng's combat strength was even comparable to that of a peak martial grandmaster realm expert. Under such circumstances, these martial emperor guards couldn't even touch Chu Lingfeng's body. They were sent flying and fell to the ground, vomiting blood. Chapter 1250. He didn't expect that Chu Lingfeng, who had always allowed himself to be beaten and scolded, would actually dare to resist. The guard leader's expression froze and he shouted angrily, "Don't you want your slut mother to return to the family Hu? Why aren't you surrendering now? Otherwise, I will immediately report to Second Master and make sure that you and your mother will never be able to return to the family Hu. Let her die alone and miserably outside." He shouted angrily and used these words to threaten Chu Lingfeng. "My mother is not a slut." Chu Lingfeng had endured for a long time. He was stupid, but it didn't mean that he didn't know that slut and slut were words used to scold people. But for his mother, in order to fulfill her wish of so many years, in order to let her return to the family Hu, Chu Lingfeng had endured all of these. But now his master was here. His master didn't want him to endure anymore, so he couldn't endure anymore. He believed that his master would definitely be able to help him see his grandfather. "Your mother is a slut. She will be a slut for her entire life." The guard leader thought that after provoking Chu Lingfeng he wouldn't dare to make a move, so he became even more aggressive. "Not only will your mother be a slut for her entire life, but you will also be a slut. A slut born from a slut. You and your mother will forever be the disgrace of the family Hu. Hurry up and kneel down and beg for forgiveness, otherwise..." Before he could finish speaking, a boom sound was heard. A strong force suddenly flew out from behind Chu Lingfeng and landed on his body. In an instant the guard leader screamed loudly and miserably. Both of his legs were directly broken by the force of the attack. Those white bones that were tinged with blood protruded from the places where his legs were broken. However, those blood-red bones didn't protrude horizontally like a normal person's broken legs. Instead they stood upright. Those sharp broken parts ruthlessly stabbed into the guard leader's thigh, causing his screams to become even more shrill. "Big brother, why are you talking so much nonsense with these people?" Luo Qingtong's cold voice came from behind Chu Lingfeng. "Since they want to kneel, then let them kneel there. But there's no need for this guard leader. Let him stand here and be a good dog for the second elder of family Hu." Luo Qingtong suddenly raised her eyebrows. "Alright, I almost forgot. Dogs have 4 limbs on the ground and their backs can't be so straight." As she spoke, Luo Qingtong. Then, bang. She attacked again and directly broke the guard commander's arms. Then she broke his spine. The guard commander screamed as his body was forced to lean forward. His upper body was crouched on the ground, the broken bones in his elbows protruding horizontally, but his lower body was standing straight on the ground. The broken bones in his knees were directly inserted into the flesh of his thighs. The posture was strange and painful to the extreme. "Ah!" The guard leader screamed loudly. Luo Qingtong walked past him with an indifferent expression. "Let's go." Stepping over family Hu's guards, Luo Qingtong led Chu Lingfeng and the others straight into family Hu's main residence. The scene that just happened at the entrance had worn away all of Luo Qingtong's patience. Chapter 1251. Luo Qingtong led Chu Lingfeng and the others straight in. Meanwhile, in family Hu's main residence, the second elder was slamming the table in a fit of rage. How preposterous! Who's the one who's secretly plotting against our family Hu? How dare they make Yen like this? Hu Yen cried incessantly. The stench on her body became stronger and stronger as time passed. At first Hu Yen and the others did not notice it, but later, they realized that the stench around them was becoming more and more unbearable. Even people like them who had cultivations and weren't weak found it difficult to endure. The smell made them dizzy and nauseous. It was only under such circumstances that the second elder's people realized that something was wrong. They thought of all sorts of ways to get rid of the stench for Hu Yen, but none of them worked. The alchemists that the family supported were also helpless. Hu Yen cried until she almost fainted. If this continued, she would become a source of poisonous gas. When that happened, the people in family who would not be able to tolerate it. No matter how much her parents and grandfather loved her, they would have no choice but to send her out of family Hu or even out of Wildland City. How could she accept such a fact? Grandfather, you have to help me. It's all because of that bastard Chu Lingfeng. If it wasn't for his sudden resistance, even if someone wanted to harm me, they wouldn't have found the opportunity. You have to help me teach them a lesson. Hu Yen cried until she was out of breath. Not only did she blame Chu Lingfeng, she also blamed Luo Qingtong and the others, who asked him to say that she had no manners and that she was smelly. Yen, don't worry. Grandfather will definitely give you an explanation for this. That bastard must be tired of living. He should have died a long time ago. He actually dared to come back and annoy us. How hateful. The second elder's expression was cold. Chu Lingfeng's existence was a thorn in his heart. Fortunately, he was an idiot. Otherwise, his great cause of getting family Hu would be hindered. In order to get family Hu, the second elder had done many things in secret. Now that he was about to succeed, how could he tolerate the existence of Chu Lingfeng, a direct descendant of the family? He could take advantage of his mistake to teach him a lesson. No one would be able to find any clues. As he thought of this, a fierce light flashed in his eyes. Father, don't worry. I've already sent people to capture him. He's also there, he won't let him escape. Moreover, we have Yan's weakness, Yan's in our hands. Even if it is for Yan Yong, he will listen to us obediently. Hu Yaogua said with a sinister smile. Yes. The second elder stroked his beard and smiled. That's right. That idiot is willing to do anything for that bitch Yan Yong. He's such a filial person. As he said this, his expressions, but it's fortunate that he's like this. Otherwise, we wouldn't have been able to find his weakness. If he didn't care about anything and made a ruckus, he might have alarmed Hu Zhongtian. The second elder snorted coldly. He was really afraid of the shadow guards around Hu Zhongtian. He didn't dare to kill Chu Lingfeng openly. But it didn't matter. It wouldn't take long. Hu Zhongtian wouldn't be able to hold on for much longer. He would die within this period of time. When that time came, the entire family Hu would fall into the hands of his bloodline. When that time came, he could play Chu Lingfeng to death however he wanted. Chapter 1252. As second elder thought of this, the smile on his face became extremely cold. At this moment, bam! The door outside was violently pushed open by someone. A guard of the Hu clan hurriedly ran in from outside, rolling and crawling as he did so. Second elder. This is bad. Someone is trying to force their way into family Hu. It's that idiot. He brought his men here and wants to force his way into family Hu's courtyard. He's almost at the courtyard now. The family Hu guard was out of breath as he finished speaking. Instantly, second elder's expression changed drastically. What? He abruptly stood up and rushed outside. Hu Yaogua and the others looked at each other and hurriedly followed him out. They could not allow that idiot to force his way into Hu Zhongtian's courtyard. Although Hu Zhongtian was unconscious most of the time and would only wake up occasionally, the duration was extremely short, so it was basically impossible for him to know what was happening outside. But who knew? What if he woke up when that idiot barged in? In order to avoid unnecessary trouble, it was better to stop him. But that idiot was really asking for death. He actually dared to force his way into family Hu's courtyard. Even if they killed him, no one would dare to say anything. This was a heaven-sent opportunity. The group of people instantly dashed outside. Meanwhile, in the courtyard of Family Hu, on the spacious main path of the courtyard, Chu Lingfeng's valiant aura, coupled with his physique that was almost impervious to injuries, was completely invincible. He was like a huge bulldozer constantly pushing forward. All the Family Hu guards who came forward to stop him were all sent flying by him. The attacks from those people did not cause too much damage to Chu Lingfeng's body. To Chu Lingfeng, attacks that were lower than his cultivation level were unable to leave too much of a mark on his body. His physique that was almost immortal became more and more tyrannical as he cultivated. He was almost invulnerable. Could be said that Chu Lingfeng was the best meat shield. He was able to withstand everyone's attacks by himself. Behind him, Luo Qingtong was gently waving the paper fan in her hand. Together with Yu Xihuang and Yu Xingqi, the two siblings were strolling leisurely. Following behind the Chu Lingfeng brand meat shield, they walked forward. Yu Xihuang's body released a powerful aura, faintly drawing away the attacks of the Family Hu guards who were preparing to attack them. The group of people approached the main courtyard where Hu Zhongtian lived. Family Hu's guards couldn't stop them at all. At this time, those who were trying to curry favor with the second elder finally realized how terrifying Chu Lingfeng's strength was. Although his cultivation was only at the lower level of the martial ancestor realm, the strength he displayed in this chaotic battle was far greater than that. Moreover, he was still so young. With this kind of potential, he could instantly kill off all the outstanding disciples of the upper aristocratic families in Wildland City. If it weren't for the fact that he was an idiot and had taken over the Family Hu, he would have definitely raised the Family Hu's strength and status even further. While the guards were still in shock, a voice suddenly rang out. "Bastard! What kind of place do you think Family Hu is? Is it something you can barge in whenever you want?" As he spoke, an extremely violent attack was launched towards Chu Lingfeng, who was resisting everyone's attacks and sending the people in front of him flying. Chapter 1253. Luo Qingtong had already sensed the attack as soon as the sound was heard. The bloody light in her eyes flickered. In an instant she activated her eye technique and took a step forward. She pulled Chu Lingfeng to the side and dodged to the side. Boom! Luo Qingtong pulled Chu Lingfeng to the side to hide, and they just so happened to avoid the most powerful part of the attack. That violent attack directly blasted the place where Chu Lingfeng was just a moment ago. In an instant, a violent wave of power blasted the group of Family Hu guards there away. A burst of mournful screams sounded, and those Family Hu guards spat out blood and fell to the ground. A few unlucky ones who directly faced that attack were directly torn to pieces on the spot. Rumble! After the violent storm of power, a figure suddenly appeared in front of everyone. Humph! Second elder stood in front of Luo Qingtong and the others with his hands behind his back. His pair of vulture-like eyes swept over Luo Qingtong and the others, and finally fixed on Chu Lingfeng. Bitches born by bitches are so ungrateful. Chu Lingfeng, although you are the disgrace of our Family Hu, in the end, the blood of our Family Hu flows in your veins. You actually dared to collude with outsiders to break into our Family Hu and wanted to harm our family head. You really deserve to die. As soon as he opened his mouth, he put a big hat on Chu Lingfeng. Looking at him, Luo Qingtong and the others with murderous intent, he was full of murderous intent. Taking advantage of this opportunity, he could get rid of the other party, this disaster. As for Luo Qingtong, Yu Xingqi and Yu Xihuang, the latter's aura was restrained and second elder couldn't see his strength at all. Yu Xingqi was holding a little white cat, and no matter how you look at it, she looked like an ignorant little girl who came from some big family. There was no need to fear her at all. As for Luo Qingtong, the second elder sneered when he saw her inconspicuous male attire and face. This group of people was also unknown as to where Chu Lingfeng got acquainted with ordinary martial artists. Was she trying to fight for justice on behalf of this idiot after finding out about him? Or perhaps they felt that this fool's identity was profitable, so they deliberately wanted to help him rise to the top so that they could obtain some benefits for themselves? No matter what the other party's motive was, they could forget about leaving this Family Hu alive. Together with this idiot, the second elder's eyes were filled with ferocity. Luo Qingtong narrowed her eyes as she watched. She looked at the main courtyard that was not far away, and immediately gave a bottle of medicine to Yu Xihuang. "Deliver it to Hu Zhongtian, let him drink it." She transmitted her voice to Yu Xihuang. The latter was already prepared to make a move, But when he heard this, he immediately calmed down the surging aura in his body. He shot a glance at Luo Qingtong, not knowing what she wanted to do. These people in front of him, he could kill them with a raise of his hand. Why would he need to go through so much trouble? But Luo Qingtong did this, she must have her reasons. Yu Huang didn't ask any more, and his figure flashed, disappearing from where he was. With his cultivation and strength, coupled with the fact that everyone's attention was focused on the appearance of the second elder, no one noticed his disappearance at all. Even if someone happened to look over here, their attention would be blurred by the energy fluctuations left behind by Yu Huang's departure, and they wouldn't know that there was a person missing. Chu Lingfeng. You ungrateful thing, you're worse than a dog or a pig. Chapter 1254. Seeing Luo Qingtong and the others surrounded in the middle of the courtyard, their eyes flashed and they immediately scolded Chu Lingfeng. You are the shame of our family who was willing to take you in when you came back. This is already a great kindness. You actually dared to collude with outsiders and do such a disgraceful thing. You deserve to die. Following their words, Chu Lingfeng, this big fool, immediately retorted angrily, you are talking nonsense. I didn't. Chu Lingfeng's eyes were blood red. He didn't want to harm grandfather. It was clearly these people who didn't let him see grandfather. They lied to him and bullied him. Why did they say it was his fault in the end? Chu Lingfeng's personality was simple and honest. He didn't know that second elder's people were there. He just wanted to find an excuse to openly attack him. Humph. You still dare to say you didn't? You even brought people to our door to fight. Second elder sneered. That's right. You broke into our house and still have the nerve to quibble? Hu Yaogua and the others coldly said. I didn't. I am the doctor he invited. After watching Yu Huang leave, Luo Qingtong immediately raised her eyebrows and looked at second elder and the others. My big brother and I hit it off at first sight. He saw that my medical skills were good, so he invited me to treat family whose illness. My big brother's heart is pure filial piety, but you say that he has ulterior motives. I would like to ask, stopping us from seeing family whose head, you people. As Luo Qingtong spoke, her eyes swept over second elder and the others. Then she chuckled and opened her folding fan, covering half of her face. Do you have a guilty conscience? Luo Qingtong's words made second elder and the others' expressions change. Humph. Sophistry. We have invited all the best pharmacists in the city to treat family head's illness, but none of them can do anything. A brat like you who is still wet behind the ears dares to boast shamelessly that you want to cure the patriarch. The second elder sneered and said, I think you're just trying to take advantage of the fact that you're treating a disease to do something improper. I don't want to talk too much with you. Chu Lingfeng. You trespassed into the family who without permission and tried to disturb the family head's recuperation. You've committed a heinous crime. I'll do it now. Clean up the house for our family who. As the second elder spoke, a ferocious look appeared on his face. He waved his hand and flew up like a vulture. That pair of sleeves suddenly flung. In an instant, the pair of sleeves seemed to be infused with fine iron, becoming as sharp as a sharp weapon, sweeping towards Chu Lingfeng and Luo Qingtong. He wanted to kill both of them on the spot. Master. Chu Lingfeng's expression changed when he saw the second elder's ferocious look. He didn't care about his status and prestige as an expert and directly attacked Luo Qingtong. He hurriedly stood in front of Luo Qingtong but was stopped by the latter. I'm fine. Luo Qingtong looked at the second elder's figure flying over like a vulture, secretly estimating the time. 3, 2, 1. Just as the second elder's face was filled with pride and malevolence, thinking that he could kill Luo Qingtong and Chu Lingfeng under his sleeves, a voice suddenly rang out at this moment. Stop. Stop him for me. As this voice sounded. Chapter 1255. Bang. The sleeves of the second elder's robe were cut off, revealing his bare arms. His body was forced back and fell to the ground. He immediately looked in the direction of the sound with a horrified expression. Ma. Family head. Looking at Hu Zhongtian, who was supported by others, standing at the entrance of the main courtyard, second elder's expression turned ugly. What's going on? Wasn't Hu Zhongtian so sick that he couldn't even get out of bed and was unconscious? How could he appear at the entrance of this courtyard? And looking at his appearance, did he know about Chu Lingfeng's matter? Second elder's heart jumped. Hu Zhongtian looked at Chu Lingfeng, who was standing in front of Luo Qingtong. Looking at the faintly discernible resemblance between his daughter's eyes, Hu Zhongtian's eyes turned red. With tears in his eyes, he coughed violently and asked in a trembling voice, You are Yan Yang's son? Yes. Chu Lingfeng looked at him and nodded honestly. However, he didn't move from his position in front of Luo Qingtong. He looked at the old man in front of him with vigilance. The current Chu Lingfeng didn't trust anyone in family Hu. He couldn't let his master get hurt because of him. Are you my grandfather? Chu Lingfeng looked at Hu Zhongtian. My mother misses you very much. Can you let her come back to see you? He didn't wait for Hu Zhongtian to answer and continued. If you can't, then forget it. Let us go and I won't bother you anymore. Don't hurt my friends. Chu Lingfeng was completely disappointed in family Hu. He looked at Hu Zhongtian and waited for him to say no before he turned and left. He had tried his best, but family Hu didn't want to accept him and his mother. He couldn't do anything about it. He couldn't let his mother come back and suffer this humiliation and torture. He also couldn't let Luo Qingtong worry about him. His master was already very good to him. He could not cause any more trouble for his master. Under Chu Lingfeng's serious gaze, Hu Zhongtian's eyes filled with tears. Especially what Chu Lingfeng said just now, it was completely heart-wrenching. His grandson barged in just to tell him that his daughter missed him and wanted to come back to see him. As Hu Zhongtian listened, he felt as if a knife was stabbing at his heart. Just as he was about to speak, the second elder beat him to it. Big brother, you mustn't agree. Don't forget the shame that Yan Yang brought to our family Hu. If it weren't for her indecent behavior and fooling around outside, how could the marriage alliance between family Hu and the Huo family be cancelled? Not only did he miss the opportunity to advance further, but he also offended the Huo clan and benefited the Bai clan. Yan Yang is the great sinner of our family Hu. Not to mention that the son she gave birth to is a fool. If these two people were to return to our Hu clan, who knows how many people would laugh at us. Big brother, you mustn't do this. The second elder's words instantly made Chu Lingfeng glare at him angrily. Mother and I don't want family Hu. They were already master's people. How could they return to family Hu? That's hard to say. If you come back and don't leave, what will happen to family Hu? Won't we become the butt of jokes again? The second elder sneered. He didn't believe that Hu Yenyang didn't have any thoughts about family Hu. As he ran, he shouted anxiously, "Not good. Second elder, quickly go and take a look. The people outside have come to report and they're all waiting anxiously outside. Young Master Bang, he's in trouble. Someone might die if he's late." That family Hu guard was drenched in sweat from running. Just now, Luo Qingtong and the others had forced their way into the family Hu. The entire family whose doors were tightly shut, and they had gone to deal with Luo Qingtong and the others. As a result, there was no one outside. Chapter 1257. After such a long time, they didn't know how Hu Bang was doing. They had only just calmed down and opened the door to family Hu when they saw the people who had come to deliver the news. What? Hearing this news, second elder and the others' faces instantly turned green. Something really happened to Hu Bang? The latter was the most outstanding disciple of their bloodline and would be groomed as the successor in the future. Second elder and the others were so anxious that they couldn't care less about Luo Qingtong and Chu Lingfeng. In any case, Hu Zhongtian didn't have much time left to live. When he died, even if he insisted on Hu Yenyang and her son coming back to inherit family Hu, they would still be able to kill them. With this thought, the group hurriedly left. Watching their departing figures, Luo Qingtong's eyes narrowed slightly. Then her gaze fell on Hu Zhongtian, who was standing at the door of the courtyard. The latter was coughing violently. The bottle of medicinal liquid that Luo Qingtong gave him could only stimulate his body's potential and allow him to wake up for a short period of time and regain his mobility. It couldn't make him better. At this moment, Hu Zhongtian's body was on the verge of collapsing. He had to do his best to hold on to the shadow guard beside him so that he wouldn't fall. "Child, cough, come here." He waved at Chu Lingfeng. Come here. Let me take a look. Chu Lingfeng looked at Luo Qingtong with some hesitation. The latter looked at Hu Zhongtian and said, Family Hu head, as you can see, my eldest brother is a mentally handicapped person. People outside also call him a fool. Although in my opinion he's just a little too simple and honest, and there's nothing wrong with that. But in the eyes of many people, he will indeed become the laughingstock of family Hu. There's also Yen Yang. She got pregnant before marriage and lost her virginity before marriage. She is also regarded as a disgrace by family Hu. I want to know, do you really want to acknowledge my eldest brother as your grandson? The reason why Luo Qingtong chose to temporarily wake Hu Zhongtian up was to get an answer from him and see if he was worth saving. Idiot. Hu Zhongtian had also heard the second elder address Chu Lingfeng as such, and thought that the second elder was deliberately slandering him. From the looks of it, this matter was actually true. Looking at Chu Lingfeng, Hu Zhongtian's heart ached. His daughter for so many years had raised such a child by herself? How hard had she worked and how much had she sacrificed? Of course I'm willing. But I can't acknowledge him as family Hu. At this point Hu Zhongtian coughed violently again. Cough cough cough. This is not a good place. After I die all of you will leave this place far far away. Let Yen Yang and the others never come back. As Hu Zhongtian spoke he could not help but burst into tears. Only he knew what kind of dragon's pool and tiger's den the Hu clan was now. It was good that Yen Yang and the others were not here. Second elder's people were afraid that he would bring Chu Lingfeng and Yen Yang back and hand over the family Hu to them. Hu knew that he did not have such thoughts at all. He only hoped that his Yen Yang would lead a good life and never get involved in this muddy water again. Even if he had to pay the price of not being able to see his daughter before he died, it did not matter. Ahem. Is your mother doing well outside? Let her take good care of herself and stop worrying about this place. Chapter 1258. Hu Zhongtian's words are heartless, but Luo Qingtong can vaguely hear something from it. She squints her eyes looking at Hu Zhongtian. She suddenly says, Is it because of the thing that Bai family wants? With Yu Huang by her side, Luo Qingtong is not afraid that the second elder's people will eavesdrop on their conversation. Hearing Luo Qingtong's words, Hu Zhongtian suddenly choked, followed by a heart-wrenching coughing. He looks at Luo Qingtong, his face horrified to the extreme. How do you know? His eyes look back and forth between Luo Qingtong and Chu Lingfeng. He doesn't know if Luo Qingtong is close to Chu Lingfeng for any other purpose. The latter's natural disposition is simple and honest. It is not impossible for him to be used. Seeing his eyes, Luo Qingtong chuckles. She pats the folding fan in her hand and then leisurely says, Naturally, because. Her lips slightly curl. I killed Bai Jintang and learned from him. She looks at Hu Zhongtian and says, You don't have to worry that I will harm you if not for Yen Yang's request. I have no interest in your family Hu. If not for Yen Yang's request, if Luo Qingtong wants to get that thing from family Hu, there are many ways. That's right, we are master's people. Chu Lingfeng seriously nods at this time. He doesn't know that his words have caused a blow to Hu Zhongtian. Cough cough. Master. Hu Zhongtian's heart is sour. His grandson Hu Zhongtian unexpectedly recognizes a young boy as his master. Just how bitter were his and his mother's lives when they were outside. Hu Zhongtian thinks like this, his heart has an impulse to cry. It's all his fault. Blame him for not protecting his daughter and grandson. Hu Zhongtian's heart is sour. He looks at Chu Lingfeng, then looks at Luo Qingtong, nodding. Well, let's go inside and talk. Since the other party had killed Bai Jintang, they were definitely enemies of the Bai clan. Since he was also the master of his grandson, Hu Zhongtian naturally had nothing to hide from him. Originally he was going to hide this matter and not let Chu Lingfeng and Yen Yang get involved, so as to avoid being unable to get away. But since Luo Qingtong had already killed Bai Jintang and knew about this matter, there was no room for negotiation. Since the other party had provoked the Bai clan, Yen Yang and Chu Lingfeng would naturally not be able to get away. Hu Zhongtian led Luo Qingtong and the others to the lobby of the main courtyard. The group of people took their seats in the hall. Hu Zhongtian coughed for a while, then said to Luo Qingtong with a pale face, That thing also belongs to Yen Yang. As he spoke, he looked at Chu Lingfeng and said with difficulty, That was sent by your father, the man who took Yen Yang's virginity. That thing was sent to the family Hu not long after Yan Yang left Wildland City. At first Hu Zhongtian and the others didn't know who sent it, until they saw a letter inside. The man in the letter said that his predecessor was seriously injured, and then inexplicably plotted against, so he forced Yan Yang. He didn't expect that it would lead to such a big mistake. That thing was the compensation he gave to the family Hu. It was only then that Hu Zhongtian and the others found out that Hu Yenyang lost her virginity before marriage and was actually forced. And it was very likely that she was framed by someone else. But because that man didn't appear and Hu Yenyang also didn't know where she went. Chapter 1259. Hu Zhongtian's heart was filled with regret as he said this. If he had resisted the pressure from the clan and brought Hu Yenyang back to family Hu, would Hu Yenyang not have been able to withstand the rumors and slanders about him and had to leave her hometown and become homeless? Hu Zhongtian's voice was choked with sobs, but Chu Lingfeng's voice sounded at this moment. My mother didn't leave Wildland City on her own. He looked at Hu Zhongtian and muttered, I heard from my mother that she left because she was being hunted down. Otherwise she wouldn't have left. Chu Lingfeng's voice rang out. Instantly Hu Zhongtian's entire body froze. What did you say? His voice suddenly rose. Hunted down. Cough cough cough. How is this possible? Who hunted her down? Why did he get the news that Hu Yenyang couldn't withstand the rumors and slanders about her, so she left pregnant? Luo Qingtong also slightly narrowed her eyes at this moment. The words in the letter sent by that person are also wrong, she said with an indifferent expression. She had only suspected it before, but after hearing Chu Lingfeng's words she immediately confirmed it. After all, from what she had interacted with, Yan Yang's determination and decisiveness didn't seem like someone who would be defeated by a few words of slanders. Moreover, she was pregnant with Chu Lingfeng at that time. For Chu Lingfeng, she had endured in such a difficult place like the Blackfield subcity of Eastern Fence Country. It didn't make sense for her to leave Wildland City and travel to such a dangerous place like the far west wilderness with such a big belly and disregard the safety of her unborn child. The only possibility was that someone forced her to leave. If it was a hunt, then there was no mistake. Furthermore, the few sentences in the letter that Hu Zhongtian had just mentioned, Luo Qingtong narrowed her eyes. That person should be sorry to Yan Yang. Why would he send something to family Hu? He even said that it was compensation for family Hu? Why didn't he mention Yan Yang at all? Moreover, what did he mean by causing a big mistake? More importantly, if he wanted to compensate Yan Yang, if he knew that she was pregnant and left, how could he not search for her whereabouts? No matter what, he should have appeared in family Hu and asked about Yan Yang's whereabouts. Plus, he doesn't know. The moment Luo Qingtong said that, Hu Zhongtian stood up abruptly. Then he coughed violently and coughed up blood. Do you mean that someone hid the news about Yan Yang and her pregnancy from him? Not necessarily. The bloody light in Luo Qingtong's eyes flickered. If I were that person, I wouldn't hide this matter. After all, everyone in your savage city should know about this. I suspect that person told him Yan Yang's to be killed, and the child with her. If that was the case, it would explain why the man had sent compensation to the Hu family. He was afraid that he felt guilty for killing Yan Yang. What? Who exactly? Who killed to kill to him? Hu Zhongtian's eyes reddened. Luo Qingtong's words made him realize something. He was afraid that the person behind the scenes was the one who wanted to kill Yan Yang. He just didn't know who that person was. Why did he want to kill Yan Yang? Of course, it's the person who benefited the most from Yan Yang's accident. He must be close to Yan Yang to make that man believe what he said. Moreover, Luo Qingtong's smile turned cold. Chapter 1260. Otherwise, she would not know so much about the man who had taken Yan Yang's virginity. She did not know who it was. How could he be so scheming? Interesting. Yan Yang was not a stupid person. Or could it be that Yan Yang was actually a naive girl who could be bullied by anyone before she met with this great change? However, family whose matter had implicated so many things. It even involved Yan Yang's past more than 10 years ago. Luo Qingtong felt that she had to tell Yan Yang about this matter. She had to come back and resolve this matter properly. After all, she was a member of the Evil Eye. She could not allow others to bully her without retaliating, right? It was fine if she did not know about this before. But now that she knew about it, she should repay kindness with kindness and take revenge if there was hatred. After Luo Qingtong's voice rang out, Hu Zhongtian gritted his teeth and spoke abruptly. Bai Feng. It's her. It must be her. At this point Hu Zhongtian seemed to have thought of something. Suddenly he spat out a mouthful of blood. He said hatefully, I was wondering why the Bai family was so sure that the thing was in family whose possession. Bai Feng. It must be her. She saw this thing back then but she did not know what it was. This time when the news about the Holy King's tomb came out, she remembered that the thing that family who had obtained was very similar to the cover of the map of the Holy King's tomb that the Ouyang family had announced. That's why the Bai family forced me to give them that thing. At this point Hu Zhongtian suddenly burst into tears. This woman caused my daughter to suffer so much. As Hu Zhongtian spoke he gritted his teeth so hard that they creaked. Back then the Bai family was just a small family in the Wild City. They were not remarkable at all. Bai Feng and Yan Yang were close. After Yan Yang lost her virginity she even went to the Hua family to apologize to Yan Yang. She even knelt down and refused to get up. I was even touched by her pleading for family who. Even after the marriage between the Bai and Hua families, she married Hua Ting Yan Yang's fiancé, the young master of the Hua family. I did not think much of it. From the looks of it now, she's simply using Yan Yang as a stepping stone to reach the heavens in a single bound. Not only did she become the young mistress of the Hua clan, but she also made the Bai clan a middle-class clan in Wildland City. Now she's forcing me to deal with her because of the Sage King's tomb. This woman, why is she so scheming? Why is she so vicious? When Hu Zhongtian said this he could not help but spit out another mouthful of blood. If it wasn't for Yan Yang's help and family whose protection, the Bai family would have been swallowed up by the other families in Wild City. I didn't expect her to repay us like this. As Hu Zhongtian spoke he suddenly fainted from anger. Master. Seeing him fall, Chu Lingfeng immediately panicked and hurriedly looked at Luo Qingtong. When the latter saw that Hu Zhongtian had fainted, he furrowed his brows and appeared in front of him in a flash. He raised his hand and sent a few streams of energy into Hu Zhongtian's body. Then he took out a bottle of medicinal liquid and fed it to Hu Zhongtian. After a while Hu Zhongtian slowly regained consciousness. Luo Qingtong looked at him and said, I'm also here this time because of the Sage King's tomb. Since family whose item is related to the Sage King's tomb, and it's very likely to be the map of the Sage King's tomb, then I'll take it. But you're tuning in to the Zhou Xian's Legacy YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.